Honestly, like if you want to grow a really good multi-inspector company, I really believe that
you're not going to be ready out of the schools. There's just no way, no matter what you do, you're not going to be ready. I don't care what you're at.
I've talked to some folks in our group, and they said, well, I've been in the military for 20 years. I'm getting out. I'm going to start a home inspection business. I've always wanted to do that. Hi, folks. We're live, I think, now in Facebook. Hi, I'm Gary Smith, and I'm here with Charles Buell and Chris Murphy, and we're in the house bringing you three perspectives on the latest inspection news and events. And today we're here to help you build your business. On today's show, we're discussing owning and operating a new inspection company. So thank you for joining us in the Sunday Open Mic Show. Hi, Charles.
Hey.
Salute.
Adios.
Mr. Chris, how are you?
How's it going, everybody? Good afternoon.
Surprise, surprise, we're back in Facebook. We were supposed to be in YouTube, and I'll take total credit for it. Didn't prepare for the channel prep, and we are not able to push to YouTube this week. We will do it next week, hopefully, if I get my act together. Jump right in this thing and talk about how to run an inspection business. We have a lot of new guys coming into the group lately, and I don't know if that's cycling because of the, some of the schools may be letting out. We have some, guys coming in and coming out. I'm sure the schools have a start and a stop time, but we get a group of new members, and we love to have you in. Welcome if you are new and you're hanging out, and we hope that you'll learn something and we can help you. So for that, we'll start with what you guys think. You always put a comment, if you would, in the group, because we're reading the comments and we'd love to converse with you. And if you got any specific questions, if we're not addressing it, somebody will somewhere. I'm sure everyone in this group has a pretty good opinion of things, and we love to spread that. So the number one thing I think is prepare, huh? Guys, what do you think, Chris, Charles? Prepping, when you start a new business, that's the number one thing you want to do is get your information straight.
I completely agree. I think that your process should be a smooth process from start to finish. I mean, even to the point to where you even pick up the phone and mention your name. So it should just be like, A Action Home Inspection or Chris Murphy Inspector, how can I help you? And to the point where you're scheduling the inspection, how to figure out how to get in the front door, the process you do your home inspection, the way you collect your payment, and even the way you leave the house should be a smooth process to start to finish, even your report writing.
So you're saying script, your situation, your process should be scripted.
Scripted. I have a system for everything. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, if you think like I even have a system of where I park my truck. So you want a structured system from start to finish, and you want it to be a smooth process.
So before all that scripting comes into play, Charles, you got to prep to get there. I mean, you're going to be, in some states, you're going to be licensed. You're going to be approved. You're going to have to be certified. In some states, they don't. So the new guys are going to be thinking about, well, what are my first steps? So first thing you got to do is in some states be licensed.
Yeah, and I'd like to just talk quickly or briefly about how you're not going to be ready out of the schools. There's just no way, no matter what you do, you're not going to be ready. I don't care what your background is. There's just too much to know, too much to embrace. So some form of mentoring, in my opinion, is essential to actually getting off to a good start, not even any kind of a start. So find somebody to ride along with, and especially be willing to pay to do that ride along, because otherwise you're just a fly on the wall. And
right. And you can do that before you even consider taking a class or a course.
Absolutely.
Or training.
Absolutely.
Would be where I've talked to some folks in our group, and they said, well, I've been in the military for 20 years. I'm getting out. I'm going to start a home inspection business. I've always wanted to do that, and certainly always wanted to own my own business. And what Charles is mentioning is potentially do some ride-arounds. Do you even know what the home inspection business is about? And then for those of you that are listening on a podcast, just know that if you're thinking, even the pre-thought of getting in any kind of business, you want to certainly you want to know what the business entails, and having a ride-along partner or a mentor would be very important, especially in this business.
Yeah, I mean, you should not be going to live training, and finding 4 or 5 days in and you've spent $4,000. I had no clue it was this hard. Or this
that's
difficult.
all part of prep work, right?
Yeah, and that's when we talk about prep, you got to go all the way back to where you're starting to think about becoming a home inspector, and putting those ducks in a row even before you get your first call, or all the protocols that Chris is talking about, which are essential.
Right. And some states are going to require a different amount of hours. So once you've done your walk through, or your ride along, or you're following up, and you've been in, how long should you ride along, Charles or Chris? What do you think? 10, 5, 1?
Well, I'd put it more to hours. The number of hours. My ideal model is you find a house and you find an inspector and go and hang out at that house for 8 hours and tear it apart from bottom to top, and learn about houses, and do that with 4 or 5 different inspectors, not just the same inspector, and maybe do that for 100 hours.
Right. And some of the folks know that Charles is a one-man operator. I'm a one-man operator. Chris is with us. He is a multi-inspector firm. Chris, do you have any specific things that you would like your new employee? Someone calls you up on the phone and says, "Hey, Chris, man, I've heard about your inspection company. I'm thinking about getting in the business. What are the first steps I need to do?"
Well, the first things that I'd look at for a new home inspector before I'd even look at them, they need a license. So in Texas, you need a license, but even, if I was in a different state, I'd figure you would at least bare minimum want an ASHI or InterNACHI certification, or some type of certification, saying that you made the effort and you made the investment in yourself to decided that you wanted to be a home inspector.
Mm-hmm. That's what I ask them if they had any background in building. Would their background mean anything to you as an employer?
Actually, when I first started, I thought it did, but it really doesn't, because for what we do, they're not really building things. I have a music teacher that just started working for me. He's actually better than the construction guy because he has a master's degree in, education, and he was able to pick up the books and literally learn them from start to finish. Mm-hmm. And we look for things and we're not building them. So I feel like that's 2 different mindsets.
Yeah. The absolute most important things are, when interviewing anybody for a business or a job, is their people skills,
Correct.
All the other stuff you can learn.
It's the people skills. And so, the background doesn't bother me too much, but whenever y'all are talking about the amount of time of training, I say bare minimum, it normally takes me about 8 weeks to even somewhat produce a decent home inspector. And that normally will be about 50 to 80 houses.
Yeah, so that's kind of consistent with what I'm saying. I just want them to be teaching experiences, as opposed to these where they're a fly on the wall and not knowing why you're thinking the way you're thinking, or what you're
right.
doing.
Yes. 50 to 80 houses. And I mean, if there is going to be someone around you, if you don't want to be a home inspector, that if I'm not working, most of the time I've offered it for free multiple times. Like, you want to learn how to be a home inspector? I'd much rather you be a good one out there than being a bad one and making a bad name for home inspectors out there.
Right. So we have 2 focuses. So
coming right along with me for free.
Yeah, we've discussed two focuses. One would be you're beginning to think about getting in the home inspection business, and you're considering it. And the next one would be you've made the decision. You think that this is for me, something I could do. And then the next thing you want to ask yourself: do I want to work for a home inspector to get training, or do I want to attempt to make this move on my own? And I want to go into business for myself. I never owned a business. I've always worked for someone or been some military person who've been where you weren't the only boss and made all the decisions for payroll, for instance. So you're going to have other things to think about other than building a home inspection business. You're going to, as part of that, that's connected to the inspection, you're going to need to know about bookkeeping, legal, and those kinds of things. So guys, touch on where you think that, we're going to be owning a business is something else other than just being a home inspector.
Right.
Well, one thing that's absolutely key is you got to marry your bookkeeper.
Right. Marry or pay someone very well.
Yeah.
Either or,
So
I completely agree with you.
More than likely going to have a corporation, right? You're going to start a corp.
You can start a corp, sole proprietorship.
So you're going to wind up with 2 tax ID numbers.
Yeah.
Yep. The potential for 2 tax ID numbers is you're going to file taxes at 2 different times during the year. Because if you're a company, you're going to be filing them on March the 15th, and that's in all 50 states.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Mine file at the same time.
And both file on the 15th of April.
That's right.
There's a deadline in Mississippi for March 15th for business filing.
Yeah, not here.
Okay, so it's going to be by state. Chris, you got any comments on that?
Well, taxes.
How does Texas? You don't even have any Texas, man. You got.
What are taxes?
Yeah, they throw it all away.
Yeah, no, I separate myself from I'm a strictly processes and home inspection material. And then I have an office manager. It happens to be my wife, but she does all the taxes and the bookkeeping.
So you married.
But I mean, honestly, if you want to grow a really good multi-inspector company, I really believe that it would be really good to have a partner.
Absolutely.
It doesn't have to be your wife, but a partner that y'all can do. It is 2 separate jobs, 100%. I'm a really good home inspector, but whenever it comes out to the side, I can run the business, do everything she does, but she does it better. So
I'm not interested either.
Same thing. Same thing. So separating the job.
So, and sum it up, what's your suggestion that you suggest that that 2 people run it? One is the staff and answering the phone, and you budget for that when you set your fees. But now we're moving away from or quasi thinking about how you set it up. Part of your fee structure is going to know that 100% of your fee is not yours.
Yeah.
Right. And
I would never give up the phone though.
Whenever I got to 3 inspectors, that's when I needed help. I did everything on my own, but whenever I got to 3, I mean, the tasks and the amount of things that are going on for one person is too much. You either have to 100% get out of the field or hire someone to help you. That's the only option I think that you got, unless you're crazy.
Well, no, I think Chris is right, but I don't give up the phone. I think I want that. For me, the amount of hours and minutes I can spend personally in contact with the buyer is crucial to liability reduction. So I take the intake call very, very important, and the time on site and all of that. It's all about liability reduction in terms of the amount of time I can create to be with my client.
Right. Yeah, but if you want to be a multi-inspector firm, you gotta get up the phone sometime. But if you're a sole owner, depending on how many you want to do or how much money you want to spend, there are companies out there that do it for you, and they're trained and they're very good at it too as well.
And what is that?
a call center.
A call center. So that would be
Yeah.
answering the phone.
Yeah. But honestly, like I've always learned that it's either your time or your money, and I really enjoy my time. So I normally spend the money for it. So that's what I've learned.
So it's personal. So again, if you're thinking of getting into this business, there are several avenues, and those avenues could be filled by your own personality and what you and how you approach the business. Is that right, Charles?
Yeah. Well, there's just no way you're going to be able to look at it the same way if you're going the multi-inspector route as opposed to sole proprietor. They're just two different animals entirely.
I completely agree. But so whenever you're starting, you should always just ask yourself, do I want the stress of being a multi-inspector firm, or do I want to be a sole proprietor? And I'm going to just say this straight up right now, that from me having a multi-inspector company, from where I'm at right now, I'm about 5.5 years into it. I think I would have made more money being a sole proprietor by myself than I am right now. I have spent all kinds of money on just mistakes, and all education's expensive. I mean, I probably will make more money this year than I did ever. But like before, I mean, I just constantly failed over and over and over again. And you just don't want to.
And you're 5 years into your path.
Well, you see this in all industry. I know as a general contractor, well, I never made any money regardless of how many employees I had. But I made less as the more employees I had and the less fun I had. That's for me the most important part of this job is having fun.
Right.
So if I'm not doing that, it's just I might as well go work at Napa.
Yeah.
So, you just want to ask yourself, do you want to run a business? Do you want to have employees? Do you want to create something big, or do you want to work for yourself? And I still believe today that you're going to be just fine as a single man operator versus those multi-inspector companies. You're going to be doing just fine because you actually can charge less and make the same amount of money that I'm going to be making and be just fine. So whenever you see someone being like, what, you're not making $500 a job? Well, I don't need to charge $500 because I don't have like these huge goals,
Chris just opened a can of worms.
Mm-hmm.
He's introduced the fee structure for the home inspector profession, and has alluded to the fact that if you are on your own, your fee can be less than your competition.
But why
what do you
would
think about that, Charles?
But why would you? I mean,
why would you? Yeah, that's the $64,000.
So proprietor for me is I can charge anything I want.
Oh yeah, you can. If I was in Charles' shoes, if I was booked out more than 3 days, I'd up my prices by $100.
And you should always do that. It's like the answer to being booked is not hiring more inspectors; it's charging more.
Yeah. So
because the fewer inspections you do, the less liability you have. It's just it's a no-brainer. Right? So if I do 150 a year and charge $700-800 a pop, that's different than most home inspectors can't even get a handle.
So we're approaching the business model of starting your own business and running a home inspection business. And this is always a nice, juicy, little sensitive part about having a business is we're talking about money.
Well, this really gets to the crux of the problem too, right? Because as a newbie coming in, you're not going to know enough to charge enough. You're just not. That's why this.
So what you're saying is a new inspector should expect to not make the same as someone that's experienced.
Oh, absolutely, but they need.
And do you think that that's across the board? How? I mean, if you were to work for a company, your starting salary probably wouldn't be that of a more senior staff.
Yeah, I would think so. But you need to. That's why I'm harping on this idea that you've got to come in better prepared. You've got to come in with more mentoring, more experience. You should not be walking into a place and see something that you got to call for an engineer that you just shouldn't have needed to do that.
Do we have any traffic in the group, guys? Is either one of
Yeah,
you?
we have Doug Zales. He's made a few comments. He was just saying that he realized that he, coming into the home inspection business, he realized that it was a business, not just doing home inspections. And then he also said that Charles had a good point too as well. And part of it was people skills, tech skills that he's learned.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he was agreeing with us that it is a business, not just, hey, some guy doing home inspections.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
so then for those of you that again are considering getting into this business, you're talking about having insurance, and that insurance will vary based on your state's requirements. It could vary based on your state associations, maybe the national associations you're with.
Some none at all.
Or none at all.
Yeah, I mean, our state, no insurance is required at all, unless you're doing bugs.
So you're insuring your yourself on your own. That's a personal decision. Right. So as far as budgeting for it, when you begin to put your budget together with a yellow legal pad and you're sitting down, you say, should I get into this business? What would be the top 5 things? Let's see if we can pull the top 5 things to think about. If you were sitting down this afternoon and if you two guys know what you know today, and if you put yourself in the shoes of a 25-year-old and you're ready to go,
well, insurance
what would be the 5 things that you would want to, remember at the very beginning?
Well, your insurance and vehicle are the 2 biggest things. I can't imagine anything bigger. Then you get nickel and dimed after that.
So it would be cost overhead.
Yeah, it would be. I think whenever we first started it, I did have my father's help whenever we came down. And one of the biggest things I remember talking about was just expenses. You got to really prepare to be able to pay your bills for a bare minimum of a year, bare minimum. And because I remember sitting on the couch and no job booked for like 2 weeks. And I was like, man, I got to start cleaning gutters or something because
what you're saying is having a nest egg of money, having a pool of money to invest in your business, so that you're being practical about how long it's going to take you to get hired,
right?
What your fee might be,
and being willing to borrow the money to do this. I mean, you talk about any profession. What do you got to borrow to become a teacher or a doctor or a lawyer? I say, brace yourself for paying $20,000 to get mentoring.
I think that's how much my dad and we budgeted out. We ended up paying it all back after all my jobs, but I think it came out to $30,000 from start to finish, helping me pay while I was working for them, and then also the amount of tools I bought and the marketing material. I think it was right at $30,000.
Mm-hmm.
But we had some nice tools.
But a lot of guys just think they can get out of their car and a clipboard and start inspecting, and I think not be really successful at it, not being,
So that idea might be one of the places where it might be a pothole, that might be a slippery slope, is to have the idea that you can just stop whatever you're doing, start, bare minimums and be able to compete.
Right. And some insurance companies won't even give you insurance if you're wanting that until you've got a certain amount of education behind you, or association membership or something to licensing, or all of these things are part of what have to be in place even to get the insurance to begin with.
Scott here in the Facebook group, he mentioned that you really need people skills. He was saying that you're not dealing with not so nice builders or not so nice people. That's going to be your number one thing about trying to talk to people about how things aren't meeting current code from a 1977 house. So
totally agree.
People skills and where it's at.
Doctors can get away with no bedside manner. Home inspectors can't.
No, I completely agree. I personable, you try to relate to them. I'm always just really coaching them through the entire process from start to finish. The point when they walk in the door, I let them know everything, what's going on. And then on the exit, I'm letting them everything know that's going on the way out the door too, as well. Just trying to make them fully informed. Communication is everything, and your people skills are too. I 100% believe this. You can be a bad home inspector, but be the funniest guy out there.
That's right.
You're a really good home inspector.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So, and you're leaning, Chris, on that process. You seem to kind of gravitate back to that. I tell them what to do at the first, I tell them what to do at the beginning, and I tell them what to do at the end. And it's the same thing every day. It's a process, and it's a habit. It's a learned set of steps that you take. So that we do. And we have a type of job that one or two missed steps could cost you a lot more than that 30 or 20 or whatever the number might be to get in this business.
Mm-hmm. You're correct. Yeah. And maybe your sanity too at the same time if you miss those steps.
Yeah.
I completely agree with you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But yes, you're right. You're right. 100%. I believe in the process. Have a system in place. If you have this system in place and you follow your set system, the main thing is you have a plan. And if you stick to that plan, it'll keep you out of the trouble for the most part.
Mm-hmm. You got to have the dog and the pony.
Yes.
The dog and the pony show. So, have a plan, be realistic, have a nest egg of money to be able to invest in this, because at the beginning, it's going to be lean. Timing when you get in the market probably would certainly help if your timing as well. I mean, if you get in the business in a recession, you're probably going to take more of a beating than not. You're probably going to find that to be true.
The time of year too. I agree with you on the time. Just started to interrupt you a little bit. It was just I started right in October, but you want to remember whenever you're starting your business, it takes 3 months for any of your marketing material to actually take hold and work. So, I mean, it still happens today. Whenever I meet someone, I know I probably won't see them for 3 months. So if you start in October, November, December, the slowest months of the year, you might be able to start being able to get work in January, but you'll be set up for the summer. And that's when we make our money.
Well, and that's the other thing for newbies. Every second you're not out there building your website or whatever, you're doing education, doing online training, doing whatever it takes to catch up. It's a catching up process in order to get to where you're actually capable of doing this job.
I agree. 100% agree, Charles. It's when don't be just sitting on the couch and watching TV and expect your phone to ring. Like that's the biggest thing. Like, I created my website, my name's on Google. It's not the way it works. Like I always woke up and I had a plan. I woke up and be like, I don't have any inspections today, but I'm going to be doing something to generate it. I don't care if it's just walking in an office, messing with my website, posting something on Facebook, creating a video. I mean, something. Which is a good
segue into the other half of that. Once you have decided to get into this business, maintaining it and getting started in a big way, marketing is going to be one of the main. And we have a couple of sessions already on our podcast there. You can go back and catch a prior episode on report writing and marketing, both digital and just one-on-one marketing. These guys are pros, and they know how to help you. The other thing that I would suggest that you do if you're listening in on podcast is to stop in on Facebook and look up Today's Home Inspector, a Facebook group, and we would love to have you as a member there. It's free, it's open. You don't necessarily have to have any kind of background. We also have a more private group under the same name. But if you come to the page, like the page, Today's Home Inspector, and the name of the group itself is Professional Home Inspectors Group. And so remember that. And next time you're on Facebook, if you're on Facebook, you can. We'd love to have you in there in the group and sharing with us, and you'll get a lot of support. These guys are real vocal, and everyone in there is vocal. Yeah,
I agree with the group too. And don't forget, Gary, you have a stockpile of stuff. So, if you're looking for something and you want something to know about electrical, you can go into the page and look in the electrical system and read all the old stuff. So you're not posting something that's been posted in the past. You can go in there and learn.
You're talking about on the group. Yeah.
Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah, you can search. Once you're in the group, you can use a search function on the left navigation bar there and search for topics that we've talked about. We've covered quite a bit. This has been a real eye-opening kind of a, topic to talk about. Thank you guys for spending some time with us today. For Charles Buell and Chris Murphy, I'm Gary Smith, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye, guys.